stretching over 21,000 kilometers, crossing scorching deserts, climbing icy snow-capped mountains, and winding through vast plains. Why did millions of people devote their strength and lives to building a wall longer than the Earth's equator? The masterpiece I'm referring to here is none other than the Great Wall of China. Without machines, without concrete, without any modern tools, millions of human hands transformed it into the longest defensive structure in human history. To this day, the Great Wall is not only a powerful symbol of Chinese civilization, but it also hides countless mysteries waiting to be uncovered, from its ingenious construction techniques to its connection with feng shui and spiritual beliefs. And today, I invite you to unveil these secrets together with Logic Relic. Chapter 1. The Wall of Life and Death. When people think of the Great Wall of China, most imagine a colossal barrier designed solely to halt invaders from the north. But the truth is far more complex. According to historian Arthur Waldron in his book The Great Wall of China, From History to Myth, the Great Wall was also a vast system for controlling population and commerce, an administrative boundary rather than just a fortress. Along the main sections of the wall, particularly during the Ming Dynasty, a series of gates and checkpoints were strategically placed. Every merchant caravan passing through had to pay taxes or present permits. This was how the imperial court managed trade and monitored the movement of people across the border. Sima Qian, in his Records of the Grand Historian, noted that during the Han Dynasty, some wall sections featured garrisons that doubled as border markets, where merchants from the nomadic Hu tribes and the Han exchanged goods under the watchful eyes of soldiers. For border communities, the Great Wall had two faces. It protected villages from sudden raids, but it also restricted their freedom of movement. Communities living near the wall were often required to register their households and undergo regular inspections, especially in strategic areas. In the eyes of the imperial court, the Great Wall was a tool for controlling both space and people, a filter rather than an impenetrable barrier. The reasons for its construction evolved across dynasties. During the Warring States period, walls were primarily built to demarcate territories between feudal states. Under Emperor Qin Shi Huang, fragmented walls were connected into a continuous defensive line, a move that was both militarily significant and a proclamation of unified power under one emperor. By the Ming Dynasty, facing immense pressure from the Mongols, the Great Wall became the backbone of a defensive strategy, reaching its peak in scale and construction techniques. But behind its protective purpose lies a darker side. Building and maintaining the Great Wall demanded an enormous amount of labor. Historical records and folklore speak of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of laborers, soldiers, farmers, and prisoners mobilized for the task, many of whom perished due to exhaustion or harsh conditions. The legend of Meng Jiangnu, who wept for her husband who died building the wall, may be exaggerated, but it reflects a haunting reality. This structure was both a shield for millions and a symbol of forced sacrifice. Thus, calling it the Wall of Life and Death is no exaggeration. It safeguarded millions inside its borders, but claimed countless lives to come into existence. This contradiction, both a source of pride and a wound, makes the Great Wall one of the most complex legacies in human history. Chapter 2. Local Materials. A wall that changes with each region. One detail often overlooked when standing on the Great Wall is that it isn't uniform across its length. It adapts to the terrain and available materials, as if tailored to each region it traverses. In the arid desert regions like the Gobi, where stone and large timber were scarce, ancient builders used rammed earth, a technique known as rammed earth construction. Workers mixed clay with sand and gravel, moistened it just enough, and layered it into wooden frames. They then pounded each layer with wooden mallets until the earth became compact and hard as stone. Each layer, typically 10 to 15 centimeters thick, was meticulously compacted before the next was added. This technique has a history spanning thousands of years in China, used not only for the Great Wall, but also in ancient city fortifications. According to a study in the Journal of Archaeological Science, rammed earth can achieve a compressive strength of 2 to 3 MPa, sufficient to endure centuries in dry environments. In deserts, low rainfall and strong winds allowed the rammed earth to quickly harden, forming a natural shell that resisted erosion. In rugged mountainous regions, stone was the primary material. Local stone was quarried, shaped into manageable blocks, and stacked with thin mortar joints or dry laid. Stone's advantage lies in its strength and ability to withstand harsh weather, especially snow and ice. Many sections of the wall in Shaanxi and Hebei remain nearly intact after centuries, thanks to their solid stone foundations. In the eastern plains, where high-quality clay and advanced brick-making technology were available, builders used fired bricks. Bricks were lighter than stone, easier to mass-produce, and allowed for faster construction. The Ming Dynasty sections around Beijing are prime examples. Smooth, gray brick surfaces with neat mortar joints, reflecting the industrial capabilities of the time. Adapting materials to each region wasn't just about saving transportation costs. It was a strategy to maximize durability. Rammed earth suited dry environments. Stone was ideal for steep mountains, and fired bricks were perfect for humid plains. This demonstrates that ancient engineers understood the relationship between materials and their environment, a concept now known as localized adaptive construction. So, as you walk along the Great Wall, pay attention to its surface and color. Each section is a signature of the land it crosses, telling a story of local resources and the ingenuity of those who turned their surroundings into the world's longest wall. Chapter 3: Construction Techniques Without Machinery. If you stand on a section of the Great Wall in a high mountainous region like Shaanxi or Hebei, you might wonder, how did they transport stones, timber, and bricks up near vertical slopes without machinery, paved roads, or motorized vehicles? According to archaeological reports from China's Cultural Heritage Administration, the answer lies in a series of ingenious manual methods. In many areas, materials were transported via human chains. Hundreds of laborers spaced a few meters apart along slopes, passing bricks or stones hand to hand, a method both efficient and safe on steep terrain. Heavier materials, like large stones or barrels of lime, were moved using ox-drawn or hand-pulled carts on narrow dirt paths. On steep inclines, workers placed wooden rollers beneath loads to reduce friction or used temporary bamboo pulleys to hoist materials vertically. A hypothesis published in Heritage Science suggests that some sections of the Great Wall were built in winter to take advantage of unique conditions. Frozen water allowed materials to be slid across icy surfaces like sleds, reducing the effort needed compared to summer. This may explain why some high-altitude sections were completed surprisingly quickly compared to those in easier terrain. Field surveys also reveal traces of temporary roads, narrow, winding dirt paths reinforced with rubble or timber to support heavy loads. After construction, many of these roads were abandoned or dismantled to prevent enemies from using them. Notably, material transport wasn't one-directional. Timber, bamboo, and lime were often brought from the plains, while stone was quarried from nearby slopes or valleys. This approach minimized the distance heavy materials had to travel, allowing workers to focus effort on the most challenging terrains. The Great Wall's construction, therefore, wasn't just about stacking walls, but solving a massive logistical puzzle without mechanized technology. Each completed section was the result of thousands of trips, hundreds of coordinated workers, and creative solutions that maximize terrain, weather, and human strength. These seemingly rudimentary methods produced extraordinary resilience. Bricks and stones placed precisely on towering peaks, where even modern machinery might struggle. Chapter 4: The Great Wall as an Early Warning System. Few realized that the Great Wall was not just a passive defensive barrier. It was also a sophisticated early warning system capable of transmitting military intelligence at remarkable speeds for its time. According to China's Ancient Long-Distance Warning Systems by Cambridge University Press, watchtowers and beacon towers along the wall were spaced 15 to 30 kilometers apart, a distance calculated to ensure soldiers at one tower could see signals from the next, even in poor weather. Upon spotting an enemy, soldiers would light signal fires at night or create smoke signals during the day. The formula for dense, visible smoke was a technical secret. Dry straw mixed with oil and animal dung produced thick, durable plumes that resisted being dispersed by wind. Signals traveled from tower to tower, relaying alerts along the wall within hours, reaching command centers hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. Each watchtower's design was meticulously planned. The lower level stored fuel for sustained signaling. The middle served as living quarters and an observation post, and the upper platform, with low wind-blocking walls, was used for signaling. Some towers in high terrain were built taller than usual, serving as both observation posts and critical nodes in the communication network. Interestingly, tower placement wasn't solely based on military needs, but also tied to the concept of dragon veins in feng shui. In traditional Chinese thought, the Great Wall was likened to the spine of a dragon stretching across the nation. Watchtowers and beacons were seen as acupuncture points along this dragon's path, places where energy converged, carrying both symbolic and imperial significance. This blend of military strategy and cultural spiritual elements made the Great Wall's warning system more than a defensive tool. It symbolized territorial unity. To the people of the time, a plume of black smoke rising from a beacon wasn't just a warning of war. It was a reminder that an entire empire stood united to defend its borders. Today, many watchtowers and beacon towers remain intact, though their signaling function is long gone. They stand as silent witnesses to an era when information traveled by smoke and fire, yet fast enough to shift the tide of battle. Chapter 5. Foundations and Structures Adapting to Terrain. If you could fly along the Great Wall, you'd notice something remarkable. The wall clings to the landscape like a giant dragon, winding over mountain ridges and stretching across plains. Few realize that achieving this adaptability required varied surveying and foundation building techniques tailored to each terrain, strategies that allowed the structure to endure for centuries. According to the study Engineering Geology of the Great Wall on Science Direct, in rugged mountainous areas, the wall was often built directly on ridge crests. The natural rock provided a solid foundation, so instead of deep digging, builders used shallow foundations. Local stone was shaped to fit tightly, forming a base that locked the wall into the mountain, resistant to erosion. This saved time and labor while blending the structure with the terrain. In contrast, in plains or soft soil areas, foundations required deeper excavation and reinforcement. Builders dug wide trenches, lined them with pebbles and gravel for drainage, and then compacted layers of clay or laid bricks and stones to prevent settling. These foundations protected the wall from erosion caused by heavy rain or flash floods, common threats in lowlands. All measurements were done manually. Workers used hemp ropes to mark lines, wooden stakes to set elevation points, and rudimentary wooden angle measuring frames to ensure the wall followed the intended path. This precision ensured both military functionality, linking watchtowers seamlessly, and structural harmony with the terrain, avoiding weak points prone to water damage. Builders also followed a principle of low walls on slopes, high walls on peaks. On steep inclines, walls were built lower to reduce pressure on the foundation. On flat hilltops, walls were taller to enhance visibility and defense. This approach conserved materials and extended the structure's lifespan. Thanks to these adaptive techniques, many sections of the Great Wall have withstood centuries of storms and erosion, remaining firmly anchored to their terrain. This is clear evidence that ancient engineers didn't just build for strength, they built to harmonize with the land and sky. Chapter 6. The Great Wall and Chinese Spirituality. To many, the Great Wall is a monumental military achievement. But in Chinese cultural thought, it carries another layer of meaning, a living entity tied to feng shui, legends, and beliefs in divine protection. In feng shui, the Great Wall is likened to the spine of a dragon, the dragon symbolizing the nation. Ancient feng shui masters believed that dragon veins ran through the northern mountains, and building the wall along these ranges both leveraged defensive terrain and locked in protective energy for the realm. The placement of wall sections, especially at mountain passes, was chosen to harmonize with the flow of energy, balancing the elements of mountain, shan, and water, shui. The most famous legend tied to the Great Wall is that of Meng Jiangnu, a woman who traveled thousands of miles to find her husband, conscripted to build the wall, only to learn he had died of exhaustion. Her tears caused a section of the wall to collapse, revealing his remains. Though likely a legend, this story became a humanitarian symbol, reflecting the sacrifices tied to the structure. In some folk versions, it also carries a spiritual element, a belief that the souls of those who died would protect the wall from collapse. Human sacrifice is often mentioned in folklore, but UNESCO and modern studies emphasize that these are largely legends or exaggerations, meant to underscore the project's cost. No large-scale archaeological evidence supports such practices, but the image of the Great Wall as a site of sacrifice has deeply influenced popular imagination across generations. Symbolically, the Great Wall was seen as a barrier protecting the realm, not just against enemies, but as an assertion of imperial power and unity. Historical records note that completing a wall section often involved elaborate ceremonies, with offerings to the heavens and prayers for the nation's prosperity. This blend of technical and spiritual elements made the Great Wall a dual structure, both a practical fortress and a spiritual emblem. That's why, even after losing its military purpose, the Great Wall remains alive in Chinese consciousness as part of the nation's soul, where every brick and section carries not just physical weight, but cultural and spiritual significance. Chapter 7. The truth about its length and scale, and why it still stands. Many believe the Great Wall is around 5,000 kilometers long, a figure often cited in textbooks and travel guides. But according to a 2012 survey by China's Cultural Heritage Administration, when all sections, trenches, fortifications, and man-made barriers from various dynasties are combined, the total length reaches 21,196.18 kilometers. This is more than half the Earth's circumference, making the Great Wall the longest man-made structure in history. What's astonishing is that, despite being built over 20 centuries with varying techniques and materials, much of the structure still stands today. The secret lies not just in its massive scale, but in the adaptive construction philosophy that persisted across dynasties. As seen in previous chapters, each section was tailored to its terrain and local materials: rammed earth in deserts, stone in mountains, bricks in plains, optimizing durability for each environment. Moreover, the Great Wall isn't a single wall, but a network of overlapping defensive lines. When one section deteriorated or was abandoned, others maintained functionality, ensuring the system's integrity. This contrasts with Western fortifications like Hadrian's Wall in Britain or the Roman limes in Europe, which were single lines that lost effectiveness when damaged. Additionally, the Great Wall's location, especially in remote mountains and hills, protected it from human interference and urbanization for centuries. Some isolated sections remain nearly untouched simply because they were too difficult to access for dismantling or repurposing materials. Another factor is its symbolic importance. Even when its military role faded, later dynasties and governments maintained and restored key sections, viewing them as symbols of power and cultural heritage. UNESCO, in recognizing the Great Wall as a World Heritage Site in 1987, emphasized that it's not just a defensive structure, but a testament to the ingenuity and identity of Chinese civilization. Thus, the secret to the Great Wall's endurance lies not in a single material or technique, but in the combination of adaptation, redundancy, and symbolic value. That's why, despite centuries of weathering by time and nature, the silhouette of this giant dragon still winds through the northern mountains, one of humanity's most enduring wonders. The Great Wall is not just stone, brick, or rammed earth. It's the story of millions of people, of hands that turned the impossible into reality, of ingenuity that adapted to nature, and of unwavering belief in protecting a nation. Every brick that remains today reminds us that humanity can achieve greatness, even without modern technology. If you've joined Logic Relic on this journey to explore this wonder, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks. Thank you for your time, curiosity, and passion for listening to this story. Your support is the driving force behind my continued quest to uncover, decode, and share the mysteries of engineering, history, and culture behind the world's great structures. If you found this video helpful or engaging, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when Logic Relic returns with a new story. There are countless more mysteries of humanity waiting to be explored, and I hope you'll continue to join me on these journeys. See you at the next wonder.